3 of HBO Max's Raised by Wolves. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So, kind of had a long one today, but I think I'm on time. I think things are good. I think it's okay. We're on time. We can relax. I don't have to rush through this whole thing. I spent pretty much the whole afternoon cleaning out my monitors. Dark Star, you can see him. The logo. It's based off of him. Anyway, so I kind of spent the whole day cleaning out his area. It was a gigantic pain in the butt because I also cleaned up his pool, and it turns out those little rocks at the bottom get really dirty, and it was a day. I had a day, and it was a long one, and it took longer than I expected, but he's happy, so I'm happy. He's happy, so I'm happy. So there you go, in case anybody cared what I was doing today. Anyway, before we get into this, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Also, I'm live streaming pretty much every day, Monday through Friday. You can follow me there, or you can watch those live on YouTube at Super Dario World and on Twitch at Super Dario World. Also, I might also start doing streaming on Facebook. I don't know. I guess I can because the service I use is pretty simple, so I might just do that. I don't know. I'll consider it. But you can follow me on Facebook at Super Dario World as well. So, also, I put this question out, and I guess I can ask it again if anybody cares to comment. I did a review. Well, not a review. A summary. With a bunch of spoilers of Harley Quinn's Birds of Prey. The response has been mostly positive. People seem to enjoy it. People seem to enjoy me losing my shit with bad movies. So I'm planning on doing that again eventually, maybe one a month or something, and one every couple of weeks. I already kind of have a movie in mind, but if you have any suggestions, I'm always open to them. I want to go where the fun is. So let's if you have anything you want to share or you want me to break down and just I mean, I wouldn't say destroy, but just be very critical of, let me know. Anyway, let's begin. Let's start with episode 3 of the HBO series Raised by Wolves, and as always, let's begin with the new characters. So let me open this up here a little bit. There you go. So let's start with the new characters. And this one, the first one is one that I kind of already introduced the previous episode, that I'm talking about Sue, or formerly known as Mary, aka Mary, or Mary Sue as you want to call it. Mary is, she was introduced the previous episode, but I guess I didn't officially do it. Okay, I'm sorry. I introduced Mary. I did not introduce Sue. And even though they're the same person, because Mary altered her face to look like Sue, Mary is a atheist who killed a theist, and she took over her face so she could ride the Ark. And now she's married to Marcus, while before she was married to Caleb. I know, it's confusing, but there you go. It's from this point on, I guess I can just call her Mary Sue, even though I don't think it's fair because so far she doesn't appear to be a Mary Sue. But just so you know who the hell I'm talking about, that's if I say Mary or Sue, it's her, okay? Because the original Sue is dead. This is the only one that's left. So there you go. Next, we have Ambrose here. Ambrose is the supreme leader of the humans, or the highest ranking officer left, or the highest ranking member of the church left. So there you go. His name is actually not mentioned on the episode. I had to go into IMDb to check that out, but there you go. And it's kind of a crappy name, but whatever. And finally, I'm going to introduce Lucius. Now, Lucius seems to be just a regular soldier. However, there may be a little bit more to him. I'll get into that when he appears in the episode, but there you go. The 3 new characters that appear are going to be with us for at least a little while in this ride. So there you go. Let's begin with the summary. So let's begin with the story of the robots and the kids. So this episode actually begins with the part that we see on the trailer, which is Mother here telling the kids the story of the 3 little pigs. Honestly, this chick, she's really good at telling stories. I don't know if it's her accent or something, but she was actually very good at telling that particular story. It's very interesting. And we also noticed that in that particular scene, we learned that our Campion is starting to get a little bit upset with Mother. I mean, he has good reason to, but Mother really ain't having his shit. So what can you do? I mean, he's the kid, so there's really nothing he can do. And so Hunter takes this opportunity to kind of use the story that they just heard to explain to Campion, like, hey, you know the big bad wolf from the story? That's your mom, and she's gonna fucking kill us. So you know how she said that there's monsters out there? Because, remember the previous episode we saw there's monsters out there? He's like, yeah, that's a lie. They're lying to us. They're trying to keep us here. And Campion is like, well, they did lie to us about the snakes being alive, so maybe they are lying now. So he kind of confronts Father about it. He's pissed off because in the previous episode, Father kind of like shook him to get the eyes back, to save their life. And Campion is like, but you shook me. And he's like, yeah, to save your life. And Campion is like, but well, you're lying about the monsters now because you lied about the snakes before. And Father gives him evidence. He shows him one of the claws of the monsters were destroyed. And he's like, all right, evidence should be enough. So, yeah, that evidence wasn't enough. Okay, so moving on. The kids are kind of at each other's throats, particularly Hunter. We're learning that he might be very smart, but he's not really good at social skills. And he's kind of getting on Tempest's nerves. Under Tempest's nerves. Is that how you say it? I don't know. And I don't know if you know this. Not a good idea to piss off a pregnant lady, especially the way that he did it, because basically what Ambrose says is for those of you who don't know, this girl got raped while she was asleep in hyperspace. And so basically what Ambrose said is like, come on, you actually, because it was a high member of the church. He's like, come on, you're kind of proud of it, right? So let me see if I can find the exact line, because I think I wrote it down. He's like, you're glad he picked you. So obviously Tempest lost her shit, and even Campion was like, yeah, that was a bad idea. Like that does not sound like a smart thing to say to a pregnant lady who got pregnant being raped. But so Tempest attacks her. They get into a little scuffle. Mother tries to restrain her, and all of a sudden, well, she starts coughing up blood. And it turns out that the rest of the kids, they're kind of ain't doing so hot. The rest of the kids are also starting to cough up blood and stuff like that. They're starting to feel really sick. The only one who's the only one who's really okay is Campion. And so Campion talks to Father, and he's like, hey, Father, is Mother poisoning the kids? Like, did Mother kill all my siblings? Like, what the hell's happening? It's because, I mean, she's a machine. She's a necromancer who kills people. He kills humans. So is she doing it again? And Father's like, I don't think so. And so he goes out and talks to Mother, and Mother's like, Father, am I killing the children by accident? Did I subconsciously kill all the generation one, all the Gen 1s? And Father's like, I don't think so. And so Mother decides to go off on her own solo adventure. At this point, we're gonna stop with their story, and we're gonna switch over to the story of the Mithraic. And this actually begins with a flashback, and we learn this little tidbit of information. So here you go. 10 years earlier, 1,000 Mithraic passengers make a 3-year journey to Kepler 22b aboard the Ark of Heaven. Their bodies travel in a state of hibernation, while their minds are able to interact with each other as if they are awake. Now, this is fucking awesome. That is awesome. Well, I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. Like that basically means that while they're asleep, their minds are still awake, so they're still interacting with each other, which sounds awesome. That is a piece of technology that I consider to be very interesting. And there's a bunch of TV shows that have dealt with this, particularly one called it's an anime called Sword Art Online, where you can play video games. You put on a headset and you play video games kind of in your sleep. I don't think you're asleep though. I think your brain just goes to not a different dimension, but to a digital world. That is a very interesting concept. I think that's where technology is going. If you can sleep and play video games at the same time, I'm all in. As long as it doesn't really damage your brain in a factual way. As long as you actually get some rest, because that would be great. Because right now I'm missing a whole lot of time to play video games because I need sleep. Anyway. But this seems really cool. Like the whole concept of being asleep and still interacting with each other, and they could still learn. They're taking advantage of that time. The only thing that's weird here is, I mean, if your mind is still active while your body's frozen, how does that work? How do you not age? Because your mind should still be operational. And I mean, if for your brain to still be operational, that means that you're not technically frozen. If you're not technically frozen, that means that you still should be aging. So there's a bit of confusion there for me, but whatever. Let's accept it. That's how that works. Moving on, we get to see Marcus and Sue here trying to explore this digital world and realizing like, oh shit, well, we're kind of parents, so I guess we should go down and parent. And from this little interaction, we learn that the boy Paul here hasn't really ever talked to his parents. So the Mithraic don't raise their children, which is weird. It's a very bizarre concept, but it's something that we learned. Apparently, they keep the kids and the parents separate. Now, I don't know if this is for every family or just for military families, because I'm guessing if the father is going to be a violent person and the mother is going to be a violent person, then the kid, you want to keep them away so they can stay pure. So the parents are sacrificing their own souls, their own bodies for the sake of the kid. But still, kind of weird, right? Kind of weird that the religious dudes are the ones that are giving up their kids. But whatever. Or unless they're like, oh, well, the church will raise them because the church will make them pure. Better than I could because I am a man of war. I don't know. Point is, it's weird. And so since Caleb Marcus and Mary Sue aren't Mithraic or aren't actual Mithraics, they're atheists. They're like, fuck those rules, and they start hanging out with the kid and playing. They actually start parenting. And while they're playing, they're running around the halls, and they actually end up bumping into one of the leaders of the church. She's one of the high priestesses, I assume. And they're like, oh shit, we're in trouble. But it turns out that she's actually happy to see them playing with the kid, because it shows and she tells a little bit about the plan for the Mithraic and the new planet Kepler 22b or whatever. I believe that's the name. And so that's where she tells like, no, we're happy to see Men of War having a good time with the kid, because we left Earth behind. We left all the wars behind. We want people to have fun here. We want this to be a planet of peace. We want this to be a planet that doesn't know war. So I guess that kind of explains why they didn't bring weapons that could take down the android, an android as powerful as Mother, or why they didn't bring androids as powerful as Mother to combat other necromancers. So because they were kind of planning like, oh, this will be peace. Like, we'll have some weapons, for hunting and stuff like that, but we won't bring like the big kahunas because we want peace. And we want all the Men of War to find peace and all that stuff. We want this to be a peaceful planet. I guess that kind of explains that. It's still a stupid decision, but all right. Moving on. At this point, Marcus wakes up because Mary Sue, damn it, because Sue wakes him up. They took him. The soldiers who found him took him all the way back to the crash. Turns out she survived, and he survived as well. And so they start checking out the crash over there. And Marcus is like, well, where's the kid? Where's the kid? And fortunately, the kid has a tracker, and they follow the tracker, and it turns out that they can see that he's in the encampment of Mother. And so he goes up and tells their leader, Ambrose, and by default leader, because everybody else is dead, and he was the highest ranked person there. So it's like, oh, well, you're a leader now because by default. And so they tell him like, hey, we need to go get the kids. Give me a few soldiers. We'll go get the kids. And Ambrose is like, we don't know if they're alive. He's like, they are alive because Mother is kind of insane, but she might kill them very soon. She took the kids for a reason. She might have taken the kids just to kill him, but we need to go and get them. And so Marcus tries pleading his case. The people back there are like, well, I guess he's kind of making some sense. Ambrose is like, no, because we don't know. Right now, we go over there, we do more harm than good. We don't have any food. We don't have shelter. We don't have water. We don't have nothing. We need to gather supplies. Otherwise, we're just going to go there, get the kids, come back, and be like, well, you're going to starve now. So there you go. And that's even if they get him back. So that's his argument. And so Marcus begins to tell him, like, yeah, this thing is not a caregiving droid. This is actually a necromancer that the atheist reprogrammed. And everybody else is like, that's impossible. Atheists have never reprogrammed necromancers. What are you talking about? He's like, well, they didn't do it successfully because she's reverting to her necromancer ways, and she's going to start killing things soon and destroying because they're made for annihilation. And the other ones are like, well, we still need to get food, so just sit down and shut the fuck up. And so there you go. So now we kind of understand a little bit of why the atheist have a necromancer. Now, we don't understand how they got Mother. We don't understand how they converted her. We don't understand a whole bunch of stuff. But that gives us at least a little bit of a theory on two of the big plot holes of the series so far. Next, Marcus basically tries to calm Sue down. He's like, we need to go get the kid. You need to go get the kid. And she's like, shh, relax. We'll just escape here whenever we get the chance. No worries. This brings us to another flashback of Marcus and Sue parenting Paul. And here we learn something kind of interesting. Paul lets us know that he is trying to speculate who in the ark is the kid from the prophecy. Because you remember in the episode 1, there was a prophecy of the Mithraic of a orphan boy from an empty land. Well, Paul is trying to figure out who the orphan boy on their ship is, and he has some theories. And these two sitting there like, yeah, you're also an orphan boy too. So it seems like the series is going to be playing around with who the chosen one is, or who the kid of prophecy is, which I enjoy. I mean, it could be Campion, it could be one of the other kids, it could be Paul. Interesting stuff. So I always enjoy that. It's one of my favorite things of Game of Thrones, trying to speculate who's the prince that was promised and Azor Ahai and all that stuff. But it's also kind of sad that this kid doesn't really know that he's an orphan, even though he's being parented better. But whatever. Moving on. Paul starts opening up to his dad Marcus, and he's like, I don't think I would have made it in the army, so because I'm weak. And Marcus is like, don't worry about it. Your side did not recruit kids into the army. And this leads us to a Marcus flashback, which is actually a Caleb flashback. You remember that Marcus is actually Caleb. Caleb's an atheist, and so we get the flashback of Caleb the atheist and when he was young. And here we see them basically recruiting child soldiers and training child soldiers, and we get to see them how they trained. And they put these kind of backpacks on them. It's a weird type of backpack that enhances them in some way. I don't know how, but it makes them super. And they fight each other, and we get to see them in action and fighting around with I'm assuming either they're killing soldiers, well, the Mithraic soldiers, or androids. It's not exactly clear. And so that flashback kind of triggers some stuff in Marcus. As they're going through their thing, trying to plan out what they're gonna do, we are introduced to a new character, Lucius. Now, Lucius is the son of a military dude that did something bad to the real Marcus during a battle. Now, it's not exactly sure what happened, but Marcus basically says, "Oh yeah, your dad, good guy," because he doesn't know who the fuck he is, and he's like, "Oh, you've forgiven so that means you've forgiven my father." Marcus is like, "Sure, that's why we came to this planet, to forgive and forget." And so apparently there's going to be something there. Lucius may actually be one of the dudes who's like, this guy doesn't seem like he's all there, or like the normal Marcus that I've heard of. So maybe this is the guy who's going to be causing them a little bit of trouble. We still don't know. Anyway, Marcus and Lucius decide to go check out some caves that are nearby, because apparently there's a bunch of caves nearby. And while they're doing that, they hear a very annoying screech, and this is where Mother shows up. So this is where she went on her little side quest. Here the stories start to converge a little bit. So naturally, since you have a necromancer coming to attack where you are, everybody runs deep underground into these caves that they just discovered. And by the way, they discovered that there's living beings under those caves. So if we're doing speculation again, it's probable that when the ship cracked into the earth, and a whole bunch of creatures that used to live underground started coming out, and those are the monsters that we're seeing attack Mother and Father's, it's not a town, home. And so that's why they are probably attacking the kids. So that's probably where they came from. Speculation, but I mean, it's the most likely thing. It's the most likely thing. Anyway, so Mother decides to go into the ship. She goes into the infirmary, and here we learn that she actually has a weird form of acid breath, because she just blows on a piece of metal and it completely disintegrates. And so she grabs some medicine from in there, and as she's leaving, the rest of the humans are like, fuck, she's coming here to kill us. We need a distraction. So they decide to send one of their two androids out there to die, basically. As she's running away, Mother's chasing her down, kills her, and she takes one of her eyes, because I guess this is her thing now. She takes the eyes from androids. Then she comes back and screeches all over the ground just to make sure, to give everybody a headache or maybe collapse the caves that are there. Now, this is stupid for many reasons, but I'll just skip it. Because it's not that big of a deal. It annoys me. I mean, I'm a double tap guy. I mean, first off, she didn't know they were there, so they should have just laid low and hoped for the best, maybe. The fact that they sent the droid out confirms that they're there, which is stupid. It's like before, maybe she didn't know. Once the droid's out there, it's like, oh shit, there's people here. Now that she discovered that they're there, I would have gone for the double tap, me personally, because I like that particular rule. I'm a fan of the double tap. You got to make sure that they're staying down, but whatever. It's Mother. Whatever. She's a weirdo. Anyway, moving on. This takes us to Campion and Father. So Campion basically tricks Father into being locked in a room, and so he takes this opportunity to run away with the rest of the kids. He's trying to save their lives. Where are they running to? No idea. Why? Also no idea. Because they're like, Mother's gonna kill us. But also it's like, well, where are we going that we won't die? No idea. But again, they're kids. Although the other kids were in hibernation for 10 years, so they shouldn't be this stupid. But stupid as stupid does, I guess. Anyway, Father goes into the little transporter ship that they have there to check out their tracking systems. He realizes that the ship needs fuel, so he inserts some biofuel into the ship, and this leads to a discovery. Bum, bum, bum. We'll come back to that. While they're running away, Paul loses his mouse, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta get this mouse back, so he's trying to find it, and this leads to a flashback of the moment that he got the mouse. Turns out that Marcus is the one that gave him the mouse, and here we have an interesting scene. Paul is actually very upset at the moment that Marcus gives him the mouse because he thinks he's giving him the mouse to kill it. Marcus is like, what the fuck would I make you kill a mouse? That's you're a kid. That makes no sense. And so he explains like, no. Listen, this is your pet now. This is just an avatar of another mouse that's on the ship. When you get there, it'll be your pet. So he's your responsibility now. You have to take care of it. And what they're trying to tell us here is kind of the way that Marcus and Sue look at Paul now. He's their pet. They're bound forever. He's their responsibility forever now. And that's kind of what they were trying to tell us there. So by the way, the mouse's name is Mouse. So shows you how creative Paul is. If he's the savior, if he's the kid of prophecy, not too impressive. Anyway, moving on. The mother comes back to the settlement, and she realizes the kids are gone, so naturally she loses her shit. And then she goes into the ship as well. She finds the tracking system. She's like, all right, well, Paul's separated from the other kids, so I'm going to go get Paul, and you get all the other ones. And Father's like, no, wait, Mother, I got to show you something that I learned through the biofuel. It turns out that the food that we've been feeding the kids is actually radioactive. So that's probably why the kids are dying. It's not you. It's the radioactive food that we've been giving them. I mean, technically, we're the ones that are giving them the food, and we're the ones who didn't know it was radioactive, so technically it is our fault. But it's not really your fault. You know what I'm saying? So their theory here is the Gen 1s, since they were born on that planet, they probably had a little bit more of a resistance. And I'm assuming the reason why they had a little bit of a resistance is when they were being developed in like the weird incubators, is because they were getting nutrients through Mother, and Mother was probably eating that. So that's probably why they got a little bit of immunity, because they developed with it. But it wasn't enough for them to survive all the way to adulthood. The only one that seems to actually have some kind of immunity to it is Campion. So he's the only one that's really safe. The other kids, since they got to that planet as, not as fetuses, but as a little bit older, that's why it's affecting them a little bit harder and a little bit faster. So this information is very important, and Mother's actually pretty happy. She's very happy with Father. Like, thank you for believing in me, and they go off and get the kids. So in the meantime, the kids realized, fuck, we lost Paul. And instead of going out to try to find Paul, they decide to sit still because they hear a monster coming after them. They are eventually saved by Father, who is really upset at Campion, and so he takes Campion back to the ship, and he explains, like, see, this is the problem. This is why the damn kids are dying. It's because of the stupid radioactive food that we've been giving them. So it wasn't Mother. So you owe them an apology. Then as Campion is leaving there, he gets attacked by one of the monster thingies and the Golem Grievous thingies, and Father saves him again, ends up capturing the thing, and then they have a little heart-to-heart where Father's like, Campion, I need to be useful. You made me look like a fool, right? The goddamn fool. So I need to be useful to this family, blah, blah. And Campion's like, I'll tell Mother that you saved us, blah, blah. And Father ain't having it, so he just leaves. Then we see Mother running around the woods trying to find poor little Paul, who's running scared. Then Paul sees a little girl for some reason, starts chasing after her. And while he starts chasing after the little girl, kind of falls into a giant hole. And that's where we leave him. So that's where that story ends. Let's go back to the Mithraic. So, the other android is she's singing this song that's mourning the death of her sister, and this song really upsets Marcus because apparently this is a song that the Mithraic sang during the execution of atheists, and so it really bugs him. And this is kind of a red flag for everybody. Everybody else is like, what do you think this is weird? What do you think this is weird? So he's kind of starting to throw off some red flags. He tries to lie his way out of it and kind of works, but still, Ambrose at least is like, who the hell is this dude? This is kind of bizarre. Anyway, they discover that the kids were on the move through their tracer thing, and Marcus again uses his one final argument like, Saul would not want us to abandon our children. Saul is punishing us because we're abandoning our children. We need to go after them, blah, blah, blah. And Ambrose is like, all right, we need to move camp. But I'm not going to give you soldiers to go get the kids. We're all going to go get the kids. So everybody carry as much as you can. Here you go. And you, Captain, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And the lesson that he's going to teach him is basically he's going to make him carry him around the desert. So there you go. And that's how that particular story ends. So let's put that's how that episode ends. So let's move on to The Good, the Bad, and the Wolves. All right, so The Good, the Bad, and the Wolves is a segment where I will be breaking down the good things from the episode, the bad things from the episode, and in the Wolves I'll break down a fun fact from sci-fi, from these characters, from the episode, or whatever I want. Like I said, it's my show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can talk. I don't even have to talk about wolves. I can actually talk about actual wolves because I like wolves. But anyway, that doesn't matter. So let's begin with the good. So the good things from these episodes, I like the whole incubator technology thing. I thought that I was a little bit torn on this, whether I should put in the good and the bad, because I like the idea of it. I like the idea of when you're traveling around in space, because you would probably, if you have to travel 40 light years, that means that you're going to have to be traveling for 40 years if you're traveling at the speed of light. So if you could be kind of asleep and kind of awake at the same time, that seems pretty cool, living in a virtual world. It also kind of doesn't make any fucking sense, and it really annoys me that the kids are such dumbasses after supposedly not. If you went to sleep at 10 and you woke up 13 years later, your brain should not be of a 10-year-old. You should be way smarter. So far, none of the kids have proven to be smarter than they are right now. So it kind of annoys me, but also at the same time, I think it's a cool concept, so I'll allow it. I'll left it in the good. I also like that they're showing us the difference between the atheist and more the difference between the atheist and the Mithraic. Turns out that I actually had the whole thing wrong. At first, I found it really weird. Why is it that? Because the way the problem is that I'm looking at things how they are now. Like atheists are more like the science people, and or scientists tend to be more atheist, and the religious people tend to be more faith-based. So they don't follow, like they don't like androids and stuff like that. So it was a bit perplexing for me, this particular feature. Now I'm starting to get it. So this is a medieval sci-fi thing. It's not like a modern day futuristic thing. It's medieval sci-fi. And in medieval times, the church had a monopoly on science, on knowledge, basically, because they're the only ones that actually had time to go out and learn writing. And there's a whole bunch of scientific discoveries that, like the theory of evolution. Is it the theory of evolution? Who's the dude with the seeds? Is it evolution? No, genetics. Well, a lot of theories that actually came from the church, and I think Da Vinci used to work for the church, or Michelangelo used to work for the church, and so they kind of had a monopoly on knowledge, at least in the West. So that's who these people are. They're the people who, they have their soldiers, they have their blind faith followers, but they also have a monopoly on science. The atheists, on the other hand, it's an interesting concept, and it comes back to the whole child soldiers thing. If you don't believe that there's let's say a god or a soul, then what's the point in being a moral person? That means that you can actually do whatever it takes to win. And in this case, it would be like, what's wrong with using child soldiers? So their morality is actually pretty interesting there, because they're doing whatever they can to do the win, because they're facing a Goliath. They're facing the dudes with all the tech. And so they're like, all right, well, we got to do what we got to do. And if there's no afterlife and there's no anything, if there's no soul, then really what we do here doesn't matter. So we can actually be as horrible people as we want, and it won't matter. Nothing matters. So it's very interesting concept. Now I'm starting to kind of get it a little bit better. At first, I was like, it doesn't make sense. But if you look at it as medieval sci-fi, it starts to make a whole lot more sense. Now, some things are straight up futuristic sci-fi, which is the stuff with the androids and how they're raising the kids and all that stuff. But all the stuff that with the atheists and the Mithraic, that's straight up medieval sci-fi. So I'm actually enjoying that. I'm enjoying that they're adding more background to the whole characters. They're adding more background to the lore of the world. Things are starting to make way more sense. Particularly that particular war starts to make way more sense. One has faith in God, that it turns out that their God is the sun or light or knowledge, and the others have faith in humanity and themselves, and that's why instead of creating androids, they create machines that enhance kids. They enhance humans, and they're willing to use these type of equipment on kids because nothing really matters, because there's no consequences. We just have to win right now. So I'm liking that. I like that moment where father tells Campion that he has to have a purpose. Like it makes him a more three-dimensional character. Before, it's kind of like, all right, he's an android. He tries to make jokes. He does little things here and there. He's useful. He's funny. But what is there anything more? Here we actually know that not only does he have a purpose, all right, the purpose is taking care of the family, but he has a desire. All right. Not only is it his purpose to be useful, he has a desire to be useful. It's what keeps him moving, keeps him interacting, gives him a purpose. So that's good. They're making him a more three-dimensional character, which is not an easy thing to do with an android. And I also like that Mother had like her own little hissy fit. It's I'm really enjoying it. I like it was a reaction that it's completely emotional. Doesn't make much sense, and this is, I mean, her screaming is her attack. However, she's not wearing her eyes, so it's just a screech. I don't know. I found it enjoyable. I found it really funny. I found it really random. I did not expect it. I expected her to just go out like straight machine, like, oh, I'm gonna go into action. But it gave her a really human response, which again tells you a lot about Mother, that she's not a normal android. And I mean, if you hadn't figured it out before, it's not just because she's a necromancer. It's not just because she got repurposed or reprogrammed or whatever. There's something going on with this chick. So, speculate as much as you want. If I have to speculate, I'm going to guess that she might actually be a cyborg and not a straight-up android. Cyborgs, the difference between a cyborg and an android is a robot that looks like a human. All artificial parts. A cyborg is a human with robotic parts. Think kind of like RoboCop. I don't know. We'll see. But this chick is way too emotional to be a robot, and this might be a hint of that, but we'll see. So let's move on to the bad. That was the good. Let's move on to the bad. So they keep giving Mother more fucking powers. Now she has acid breath. Are you kidding me? Like, where the hell is she hiding all these things, all these weapons? She has freeze breath. She has like an atomic scream, and now she has acid breath. Seriously. And this is the type of metal this is starship metal. All right, this is not like regular run of the. I guess inside it could be different, but still, it makes no sense. And it was completely unnecessary for her to melt that. She could have just opened it up. And no, they specifically wanted to show off that she has acid breath. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't that frost breath? No, because if it would have been frost breath, she would have had to break it or punch it. No, this thing straight up just melted. So that's annoying me. It's annoying me how many more powers they're just going to keep giving her. And where do they all fit? And how does she replenish all of those supplies? It makes no sense. But I guess they're going to keep doing it. Next, the whole interaction here with Ambrose really annoyed me. Like, Ambrose in general is a cartoon villain. Like I just said, that it's good that they're giving Father more. They're making him more of a three-dimensional character. They're doing the exact opposite with Ambrose. Ambrose is straight up a 2D cartoon villain. Now, he had a moment where he actually made a reasonable argument, but other than that, he's just a cartoon baddie, and you can pretty much predict where he's gonna fall and everything, and I can tell you what's gonna happen. Like, I can predict it already. You can already know that he and Marcus are going to be at odds, and at one point, Marcus is going to end up killing him, and he's going to become the leader because he's a total asshole. That's it. And the whole thing of making him be carried on a throne is beyond fucking ridiculous. Like, this is very annoying to me as a pragmatic person. You just crash landed on a planet. First off, the fact that you would even consider following Earth rules in a different planet is stupid. Especially when the leadership is dead, and especially when you crash land and you're trying to survive. Now, this fucking asshole being on his little throne, I would have shot him dead. And who the hell is going to do anything about it? It's like, are you going to do something about it? No. Are you going to do something about it? No. Why? Because fuck that guy. We could have been using our bodies to carry more equipment, more supplies, because, we're on a barren fucking planet and we don't know what we can eat, and so we should carry as much as we can to survive. But instead, this fucking asshole wants to be right his fucking throne because he doesn't walk around in the fucking desert. Fuck that guy. That guy should have been shot and double tapped multiple times, like multiple double taps. And I know that makes no fucking sense, but still, it's a dire situation. Not only does he not want to save our kids, he wants us to carry him around the fucking throne of the fucking desert. Fuck that guy. So, and that annoyed me. That really annoyed me. It was stupid. It made no sense. Not pragmatic. And again, they're just trying to make him a cartoon villain. A petty, small human being that's a cartoon villain. And this show deserves better. So, moving on, let's move on to the wolves. And in the wolves, we're going to try to figure out what the fuck are those backpack things that superpower kids. Now, I had a lot of theories here, and at first I thought, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, what kind of a backpack could a kid wear that immediately enhances them? And so I started thinking, all right, if I were going to explain this, if I had to bullshit my way through this, what would I do? What would I use as an explanation? And I thought of several. Like, it could be that this is a backpack that it gets your heart rate up, it pushes and makes your adrenaline stay high, and that's why it activates your adrenaline, and that's why you move faster. You're a little bit stronger. You're a little bit faster, and so maybe that's how this machine works. It would be the easiest and simplest explanation. However, it also doesn't explain why they would use it in that form. I mean, I'm guessing that a shot of adrenaline would have been a little bit better. I guess this thing's more constant and more consistent, so that's why that's one possible explanation. Another possible explanation is that the kids actually have nanotech inside them. So this is a power source. So it is possible that at one point, at certain kids they consider to be special enough, they inject certain type of nanotech in them. That nanotech, I mean, like tiny robots and stuff like that. Or tiny enhancements, and this is a power source for that. So if they're wearing that, the tech that they have inside of them, that's when they get activated. So it's a power source for that. Honestly, that seems a little bit more ridiculous. But either option, a backpack that you put on that gives you superpowers is stupid. Like, honestly, I can't think of, unless under their clothes, again, they're wearing some kind of special kind of sort of quasi Batman-like armor that enhances their movements a little bit, and this is the power source. I don't understand it. So, if I have to make a bet, I'd say that it's an adrenaline thing. Like, that's the only thing that makes some semblance of reason for me, because nanotech does not seem like enough, and these are the dudes who don't fight with robots and don't have all the tech in the world. So, I'm just gonna say that. Hopefully they'll explain that a little bit more. The nanotech, I do believe it would be a little bit more fun because it adds a little bit more elements for the future, and but I doubt it. Honestly, I don't even think that they're gonna explain it. I think they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is how they actually were able to use kids, and they were actually useful. It's because they were enhanced, but they don't. I don't see them trying to explain this at any point in the show, which is unfortunate because I would actually like to see the logic behind this, but we'll see. Doubt it. But anyway, that's it for The Good, the Bad, and the Wolves. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed this whole breakdown. I'm finally catching up, man. I am finally catching up on this whole thing, which I'm very happy about. I'm very, very happy about. Let me just go back here. So, that means I have one more episode to go before Thursday's episode to catching up with The Bad and the Wolves. Tomorrow I will probably do the next one of The Boys. So, catching up. This is catching up week. If you want to, check out the new trailer for The Mandalorian. I checked it out. I liked it. It's fun. I will probably break it down again once I start breaking down the whole news that just keeps piling up. So I got material for weeks, bruh. I got material for weeks. Material for bricks. I should just stop. As always, any comments, questions, suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World. Live streaming pretty much every day, Monday through Friday, on YouTube and Twitch at Super Dario World, and follow me on Facebook at Super Dario World. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time.